Hello, welcome to an episode of Test Chamber. Today we are looking at Street Fighter V's new cinematic story mode, A Shadow Falls. My name's Brian Shea. I'm joined by Dan Tack.
Hi, Brian Shea.
All right, we are looking at the very beginning of the story here. We see Charlie Nash, one of the mainstays of the series, kind of in this nightmare sequence. And so this cinematic story mode takes place right after the character story mode, which launched with the game, and now we're seeing kind of the follow-up to that kind of lackluster mode that we saw in the beginning. Did you get to play the character story mode at all in the first in the launch version? I know you have Street Fighter V.
There was a character story mode in the launch version? What?
Yeah. So there was like kind of still animation with voice acting, not so much like cinematics like we're seeing here. So we see Nikali, who's one of the new characters, taking out Nash in this dream sequence. So Nash was killed, spoiler alert, in the character story, and now this general story mode, we're seeing him wake up and kind of kick off the events of this mode.
So is this mode the same for all characters, or is it different for each character?
So the character story was split into different characters, and this one is just one general story, kind of like we see in fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Dead or Alive, where you kind of go and fight as different characters across the entire narrative arc.
So you play as different characters in this. You don't get to choose them.
No,
Okay.
yeah. You play, I think, as every single character in the game, and then you also get to test out some characters that haven't even been released yet. So this is a good way to kind of get to know some of the characters that are in the game to start, and then if you haven't bought some of the DLC characters, like you get to play as Balrog and Guile and Ibuki, and then Alex as well. So the fourth DLC character is released to this point, and then they have Juri and Urien, who have not been released yet, that you can also play as. The thing that a lot of people complained about with the character story was that the enemies were just like punching bags. It wasn't anything like too challenging. It was all just like, all right, you punch these guys and you watch this little short still cutscene.
All right.
This being the first fight, it's still fairly easy. It's but later on they do ramp up the difficulty a decent amount. That said, I still didn't have that much a problem. Like there were a couple fights where I had to try a few times, but it was still pretty breezy to get through normal mode. There, and then after you beat normal mode, there's an extra mode that you also unlock, so you can play for a harder challenge. The animation style is very similar to that of like the kind of the intro and like the intro phrases that they say, like the heart of battle is combat. So it's kind of cool that they've kept with that style, and it works most of the time. There are some lip syncing issues I found. And also there's it's definitely some campiness to the whole thing. It doesn't try to take itself too seriously, which I like. It's not as dark and gritty as like Mortal Kombat and Injustice. So I like that about it. I do wish that they kind of went with like chapter by chapter as opposed to like, all right, you're fighting as this guy, now you're fighting as this guy, because you don't really get a sense for how to play the characters when you do that. Like this, I'm playing, and it's like, okay, I know how to play Guile or a Nash and Ryu, but then it gets to like a Fang fight, and I'm like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I have to stop and look at the moveset, and then you go on and fight as Nikali. Then maybe in like an hour or so, you come back as Fang again, and he's kind of a weird character, and you forget how to play as him, so...
You just poison him, man.
Yeah, you do. You just poison him.
I'm more. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't seem like it'd be a detractor for me in story mode, since this isn't supposed to be where you're training and getting all your moves down, right? This is just...
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about
story.
Arcade, it's like arcade mode, which is the big missing mode in this game.
Sure.
Is like it's always like, all right, I'm going to learn how to play a character really well, and then I'm going to take them online.
I mean, that's fair.
Which, I mean, survival kind of serves that purpose in this mode. And it is cool to see like how like these characters actually fit into the story with each other, as opposed to just like the still shots that you didn't really learn much from that launched with the game. So like Nikali here, he's on some mission to consume your soul. And we learn a little bit more after we do this battle here.
Was it a 2v1 battle?
No, I wish it was. I actually really was hoping for a 2v1 battle, because we see that in like Mortal Kombat, and I think Dead or Alive 5 had a couple of those. But no 2v1 battles in this. It's all 1v1. So now, see kind of like
what's
the
this?
main antagonist slash problem slash conflict that's happening in this story mode is this thing that's called the Black Moons,
Uh-oh.
where Bison and Shadaloo, his organization, are kind of trying to do this plot. It's kind of weird.
Some world domination thing?
Yeah, some
That's
world
what it is?
domination thing where they're trying to destroy the planet, and Ryu and his crew of wily misfits try to stop him.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, I think that's a pretty good look at story mode. Don't want to go too much deeper into it. It kind of follows the same formula. You see a cutscene for a few minutes, then you do a fight, and you see it from a bunch of different perspectives. And the cutscenes are fairly well animated.
I mean, okay, that's cool. So, what should this get me back to Street Fighter? Is it worth coming back for? Is that the?
I think that what they're doing is they're presenting a much better case for playing this game. Like, if you're not an online player strictly, I think that this is a mode that should have launched with the game, I would say. And it greatly fills the void of all right, there's not a whole lot to do if you don't want to play online. And it definitely adds a lot of content. It's a free download, which is cool. So there's an update that you have to download, and then on top of that, you have to seek out the actual DLC thing in the store and download that. So that's an 8 gigabyte download. So I don't know if it's if you're into story modes. I love story modes in fighting games. It's the first thing I do when I play Mortal Kombat or Injustice. I wouldn't put this up there with Mortal Kombat or Injustice in terms of the quality, but I enjoyed it. I think that it's a fun thing. If you like story modes, you'll like this. It's goofy. It's fun to play as these different characters. And
All right, so okay, here's the big question. So if you were holding back on getting Street Fighter, based on its lack of a story mode, should you pick it up now based on this story mode?
Yeah, I mean, if that was your main reason, I would say yes. Get it for the story mode, and especially since now it's probably cheaper. Also, you can probably get it for $40 or $30 or whatever it's going for now.
Right.
But yeah, so that's story
that's
mode.
An answer. All right.
It's out now. It came out last Friday. And you can check out my full written impressions on GameInformer.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Test Chamber.